I would like to invite here Mr. Raghav Chandra, the chairman of the National Highways Association of India. When we talk about highways, again, in fact, when we talk about infrastructure, whatever infrastructure we are talking about, it's the highways which are going to be connecting. We are talking about the industrial corridors, the smart cities coming up. So how well or how ready we are? We have the keynote address, and I would like to invite Mr. Raghav Chandra.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to be here in your midst, talking about a subject which is not only close to my heart, but part of my bread and butter, part of my daily routine, part of my mind and vision. Infrastructure, no doubt, is one of the main pillars of the competitiveness of any nation, and historically all those nations which have had good infrastructure have also been those that have had high growth rates. Within infrastructure, connectivity plays the most important role, and again historically, if you see, those countries and civilizations which were well connected were the ones that progressed the most, whether it was through the sea routes or it was the land routes. The ancient Phoenicians, the Mesopotamians, they all developed roads and they were advanced civilizations in their time. Hannibal of Carthage was an unconquered king, and the only time that he lost was when he tried to climb the Alps with his elephants, and they all got buried in the snow because there was no road through the Alps at that time. The Chinese developed commerce through the Silk Road. The Second World War, the Americans were able to stave off Japanese aggression through the Stilwell Road, which they built over a period of about 2.5 years, and an entire American general and an entire American contingent of forces perished through the mosquitoes and through the very, very difficult terrain of Burma, but they were able to help the Allied forces in staving off Japanese aggression, and this was the road which linked Mandalay, Kunming, and almost reached up to the India border. In the US, Dwight D. Eisenhower launched what is known as the National System of Interstate and Defense Highways, which today are better known as the interstate highways or freeways or interstates, and which is why President Kennedy commented that America is a great country because of its highways, and it's not that America's highways are great because America is a rich country. In fact, in the US, highway planning started as early as 1921 with the Federal Highways Act, which is also known as the FIPS Act. And in 1922, mind you, 1922, they had launched a blueprint called the Pershing Map, which laid the blueprint for creation of interstate highways. Germany created its highways, which are today known as the Autobahns. They started work in 1938 when Hitler came to power, known as the Rijksautobahn. And in India, we today have a deficit of about 50 or 60 years to catch up with the developed economies of the world, because what was supposed to have been done latest perhaps by the 60s got started in the early 2000s. That's clearly 40, 50 years behind time. But anyway, we have a significant program on today, and I'm going to tell you all about it. It's heartening that we've got our act together as a nation. It's heartening that things are happening, and it's also heartening that there is a lot of traction on the highway sector, and it's truly one of the success stories which is emerging before the nation. But before that, let me give you a brief indication of where we stand. Whereas the average density of roads in India is about 4 kilometers per thousand, and this includes all the rural roads as well. In the US, it is about 20 kilometers per thousand. The average truck speed in India today is only about 40 or 50, whereas in the more advanced economies, it ranges between 55 to 65. When it comes to multimodal mix, 75% of all the freight in India moves on the highways, whereas the national highways contribute to only 2% of the entire road network. So that's the dependency on the national highway network for the nation, and so indeed it is a very important task before us to get our highways in order. The World Economic Forum Global Competitiveness Index in 2015 ranked our overall infrastructure at 71. However, there have been improvements, and today I'm happy to state that the World Bank Logistics Index has improved India's rank from 55 to 35, with a clear note that in the highway sector a lot is happening, connectivity is improving, and it looks like India will be able to get its act together on the highways front. This is further demonstrated by the fact that the sales of construction equipment in the country today has gone up by about 35% over the previous year. Consumption of bitumen, which is largely used in the road sector, has gone up by about 35%. Cement, which we are trying to use to a large extent in our highways, sales has gone up by more than 6%, and so has steel sales. The overall climate of participation in the highway construction sector is certainly upbeat today, as my colleagues here from the private sector will bear out. Traffic growth figures have gone up by about 7 to 8% versus about 2 or 3% the previous year. And with our GDP expected to grow at a rate of more than 7%, I would not be surprised if commercial traffic further goes up by more than 10%. And this will all have a positive impact on toll revenues. And when it has a positive impact on toll revenues, it has a positive impact on the entire PPP framework, wherever we are involving the private sector in joining hands with us to construct, maintain, operate, and develop the highways. Under the various models of public-private partnership, such as the BOT toll model, the BOT annuity model, the hybrid annuity model, and another model which we launched recently called the hybrid annuity model. When it comes to overall spending for the highway sector, whereas the entire Ministry of Road Transport and Highways spends a lot of money through the state governments, but if you were to look only at the spending of the National Highways Authority against a public spending of about 24,000 crores in the year 2014, it went up to 40,000 crores in the last year, and we expect to ramp this up by a further 50% this year. When it comes to private spending, against 17,000 crores the previous year, we were able to ramp it up to 27,000 crores, and we further expect to ramp this up by another 50% with greater participation from the private sector, leading to an overall expenditure of about 100,000 or a lakh of crores. What is our focus in developing highways today? And the gentleman before me spoke about the various deficiencies that exist, and I quite agree with him that it is indeed a sad story that historically no one ever concentrated on efficiency improvements. No one ever really concentrated on improving the speed of construction, but fortunately things are panning out correctly today. And our focus, to give you a snapshot, and some of you would like to ask me questions, and I'll be very happy to take on questions rather than bore you with just a routine address. Our focus today is on corridor improvement rather than just improving a particular stretch of a road. So for instance, if it is a corridor from one major city to another major city, it's in our interest, it's in our focus to look at improving the overall connectivity between those two major cities rather than just to look at one particular stretch of a highway between those two cities or some stretches of highways between those two cities. We are looking at improving the overall efficiency of design, which means getting the right consultants, and yes, there are good consultants and there are bad consultants, and we would like better consultants. And just to mention that when we were looking at consultants for some of the expressways that we are rolling out, it's extremely hard to find good international consultants in India. Even those who are represented in India through their international firms, they largely employ Indian personnel without the requisite international experience. And so we've had to put in clauses now that for our expressways, DPR consultants will have to be those who have experience of having designed expressways. Looking at efficiency in construction, which means getting the best machinery in place, getting the best manpower in place, getting the best technologies in place. Efficiencies in maintenance of highways. We are looking at bringing in more technology there, and ultimately in the overall operations of the highways. One area which has been neglected historically is highway management. Because the deficit in highway construction was so large, like a hungry man, our emphasis has been entirely towards completing this historical deficit of road construction. But today, thankfully, I have been able to change the focus from merely construction of highways to management of highways. Management of highways includes managing the right-of-way, ensuring that there is a clear throughput and ability to move on the highway, removing encroachments, ensuring that traffic is managed on the highways, improving the entire gamut of tolling services, whether it is the operations at the toll plaza, whether it is the service management of the employees at the toll plaza, their uniforms, the manner in which they behave, the code of conduct that they have to have, electronic tolling, which includes FASTag. So today, out of the 365 toll plazas, we have got almost all of them covered with electronic tolling devices, and hopefully in the next few months we should be able to ramp up the entire RFID FASTag movement to ensure that at least half of our vehicles in the country in the next 2 years should be carrying RFID tolls so that they can pass through seamlessly across the toll plazas. This will be a great saving in terms of time, great saving in terms of fuel, great saving in terms of overall economic efficiency. We are looking at the efficiency of the amenities that we provide across the highways. A common refrain is that when you go abroad and you need to use the loo, you have excellent loos and toilets across the length and breadth of the highways. You have wayside amenities, whereas in India we have no such thing. You do have petroleum outlets, but you have a tin shed for a loo, and sometimes you'd prefer to not use it than to use it. So we are moving forward, so creating wayside amenities at every 50 kilometers of the highways. We have a plan in action ready. We have already launched the bids for some of these, and we hope to be able to ramp this up in the next 2 years and cover most of our highways and most of these 50-kilometer spots. We are also constantly addressing the petroleum companies so that they should be able to improve the wayside amenities and toilets that they have across the highways of this country. We are looking at better usage of technology, which is ground penetrating radars, LIDAR technology for the creation of better detailed project reports and better ground level surveys, which will ensure that the roads that are built are more holistic, more complete, and do not have to be tinkered with once they have been constructed. Safety is another issue which bothers us, and we are constantly looking at undertaking safety audits of the roads, and also at removing what are known as black spots on the roads and highways where accidents are prone to occur. There is a greater industry facilitation which is happening vis-a-vis the banks, vis-a-vis the state governments, the various government departments, whether it is environment and forests, water resources, or the road transport ministry itself, and we have provided a more stable regime for private operators and contractors and concessionaires to operate in. Government on its part has been entirely forthcoming in supporting this endeavor and has come forward with various mitigation measures and various schemes to facilitate those who are in this business, to facilitate industry, to give them greater comfort and support. And for this, various schemes have been brought out by the Cabinet, such as the concession period extension scheme, the premium deferment scheme, to make even low traffics more sustainable and bearable, to reduce the cash burn, to allow 100% exit of a toll after 2 years of completion, and I am further encouraging divestments so that those who are in the business of construction should unlock their capital and move forwards to develop new highways, look at what their core competency is rather than locking up their capital or locking up their energies in tasks which they are not entirely competent at. Overall, we are looking at creating more access-controlled expressways. There are lots of expressways which are on the anvil. To just mention one of them, the Eastern Peripheral Expressway, which is going to connect Kundli in the north of Haryana to Palwal near Faridabad. This will be a 135-kilometer access-controlled expressway, which is moving at top speed. And even though we had scheduled to earlier complete it by July 2018, we are hopeful that we will complete it by July 2017. Something like 13,000 trucks of earthwork are being pumped onto the road these days. And if you take a helicopter view, you will see the level of work, the intensity of work that is going on. And this will be an entirely access-controlled expressway with the best electronic systems like variable message signs, etc., gantry-based tolling. This will have wayside amenities and complete landscaping. Along with this, we intend to do a Vadodara-Mumbai expressway of about 300 kilometers going up from Vadodara to JNPT port, a Lucknow-Kanpur expressway, a Nagpur-Hyderabad-Bangalore expressway, a Bangalore-Chennai expressway, a Delhi-Jaipur expressway, and a Delhi-Ludhiana-Amritsar-Katra expressway, and many more such access-controlled expressways, outer ring roads like the Lucknow outer ring road, the new Amravati capital of Andhra Pradesh, the outer ring road of 212 kilometers all around it, and various other city outer ring roads, peripheral roads, bypasses, interchanges, and such like. So in the days to come, there is going to be a lot of traction on the highway network. There's a lot of deficit which is going to be removed, and I'm indeed hopeful that we shall be able to do the nation proud. Thank you very much.